We can't head into winter without a proper celebration of the start of winter hiking. Get ready for the return of Full Conditions Winter Kickoff, presented by Bergen Outdoor and Reckless Brewing Company, happening Saturday, November 22nd at the Colonial Theater in Bethlehem. Each November, we celebrate the start of winter hiking with a full day of activities, all to raise money for local search and rescue teams through the New Hampshire Outdoor Council. On November 22nd, the day begins with a community hike to the summit of Mount Pemigewassa in Franconia Notch, where the Reckless crew will be waiting with hot chocolate, coffee, and snacks for fellow hikers. Later that evening, the Colonial Theater will host a ticketed event featuring an exclusive screening of 109 Degrees Below, a live episode of the Slasher podcast, a lineup of inspiring guest speakers, and cans of Full Conditions IPA, our special collaboration brew. So who are we going to have for speakers with Slasher at this event, Stomp?
We have a heck of a lineup. So when the pod takes the stage, we're going to be joined by Reckless Steve, of course. He's going to give us a great update on the latest craft brews and what's happening at Reckless. We're also going to be interviewing Paul Cormier, who is the current president of Mountain Rescue Services. And then to top off the evening, we're going to be talking to Joe Lentini and Ty Gagney on stage combined. So, Ty Gagney wrote the recent book, Lions of Winter. And Joe Lentini himself was a part of the Albert Dow event so many years ago. So it's going to be a really great night of education, talking about Full Conditions and what you can do to prepare, and so much other information. It's going to be a fantastic time.
Excellent. So if you want to go to this event, make sure you get tickets while they last. You can find them at eventbrite.com. You can search Reckless Full Conditions. There's also going to be a link with every episode that we're posting. And you can also find links in the Reckless bio, as well as Bergen Outdoors and Slasher. So we hope to see you there.
Yeah.
And it should be a great time.
Yeah, and remember, the Full Conditions event is a benefit for the New Hampshire Outdoor Council, which is an umbrella nonprofit in the state of New Hampshire that provides funding, grant monies to the volunteer search and rescue teams. So the night is a very important night for the teams.
Excellent.
See you there.
Okay, are we good?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Is this on?
Is this thing on?
Check.
All right.
Use a mic.
All right. Well, welcome to Stomp. What should we label this episode? Is this 210.5 or is this just a very special Slasher episode?
I'd say just let it rip. Special emergency broadcast.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So, folks, we are here to do a breaking news emergency broadcast. We wanted to do an episode covering this Recycled Percussion / Chaos and Kindness stunt hike. I would call it a stunt hike. Is that a fair way to call it, Nick?
Yeah, it appears so. I will say it appears that it was generally a stunt hike. I think that's an appropriate terminology for it.
Right. So I know we've been texting back and forth on this thing for the last 10 days or so. So it's gotten our attention. So I'm assuming it's gotten the hiking community's attention. So we figured that we would get like a quick episode out on this thing.
Yeah. This is an important topic. I mean, it's unusual, Definitely an anomaly. So it's worth covering quick.
Right. So, all right. I guess to start off with, so we're calling this a stunt hike. So obviously, like the people do Derritissimas and they do all kinds of like fastest known time things, and I wouldn't necessarily call all those stunt hiking, but like ever since hiking became a thing, essentially, like you can read there's a chapter in Forest and Crag by Laura Waterman that they talk about super hiking in chapter 46 of Forest and Crag, and they essentially just talk about like how there was early efforts to do quest style hiking, and they give all kinds of examples. There's even like there's a description of the very first presidential traverse that happened in like the late 1800s in one of the Appalachia journals that you can check out. So the thing people need to remember about these is like, yeah, you can take the position that, oh yeah, you take your time and enjoy the mountains, but ever since like mountains have been climbed, people have been trying to do it in a fast way or a competitive way. So it's always been a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing new there. And I mean, it goes from the AT to any sort of long distance things. I mean, like it's there. People are going to do it. And I think people sometimes have the same sort of, I don't want to say snobby, but outlook. Like I definitely have friends who've been like, well, they're not really hiking the AT if they're blasting through. And it's like, no, well, I mean, that's what they're doing. That's the purpose they're seeking right now. So, I mean, who are you to judge who can enjoy or what you need to do to enjoy these things? I don't know.
Right.
It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Well, the question with this one is, this guy isn't a hiker, apparently. So that's what makes this one stand apart from most of your stunt hikes.
True.
Yeah.
True. I mean, you're the only one, Stomp, that's ever really done a stunt hike, as far as I can recall. Like you did your Pemmy loop with your pool noodle.
Yes. And I'm selling the pool noodles for $80 on my poolnoodle.com website.
Only 603 of them. So
genuine Stomp sweat on them, on the noodles.
Right.
Stunt hike.
All right. So we'll talk about Ryan and Justin and Recycled Percussion in a second, but we figured we would live here a little bit. So essentially this guy, he burst onto the hiking scene, I don't know, 2 weeks ago at this point, and just like randomly said like, hey, I'm a guy that's never hiked before. And 2 days ago, my friend or I guess they're cousins, challenged me to hike every 4,000 footer in New Hampshire in 7 days. So I'm going to do it. And obviously, like everybody's looking at him cross-eyed, rightly so, I think, because he definitely bit off more than he can chew. But the strategy on this one is essentially like all the 4,000 footers, they could drive from trailhead to trailhead. Yeah. And it kind of looked at it sideways from the very beginning, because he picked his first summit as Carrigain, which I wouldn't have done it that way. So I wanted to ask you guys, from your perspective, you were going to tackle this. If I said tomorrow, Stomp, you're going to have to hike all 4,000 footers in 7 days. What's your strategy immediately? Like how do you cluster these things up?
In terms of what I would do, first off, I actually think I would probably try to do the same if I had good hips and everything else. It's such a mind over matter game, and this guy is in it, as we will discuss. But I think I would try to do a 48 challenge if I had the time and the healthy orthopedics behind me.
Right, but you have a crappy hip right now, so we don't want you to completely lose it. But just from general strategy, from your perspective, how would you cluster these up? And have you thought about like day 1, day 2, day 3, or have you not thought about that?
I have. I was going to wait to get to the point where we compare what he did and then add some commentary on that. But I would definitely have tackled the big stretches, the traverses, the loops. And added on something like, for instance, Owlhead into that loop, because you're proximate to it. You could have, dove down from Galehead, for instance, and grabbed Owlhead and bailed out and saved yourself the need to do Lincoln Woods Road twice. Right. I think there's definitely a lot of efficiency that you could gain by putting a little more time into the plan.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So we'll go through what he did, and then I actually put together like what I think is an optimal strategy. And Nick, I know you probably looked at that and might have put a spin on it too.
Yeah, a little bit. I kind of had my own shifting strategy, but similarly, I mean, I think like what Stomp was saying is I think from an early perspective, like I would try to bang out as much as like the most rugged terrain on fresh legs, which kind of ended up happening earlier, I think, in the hike for him. But yeah, we can dive more into it as we get to that part.
Nice. And then go ahead, Stomp.
No, I was just agreeing.
Yeah. And then before we just get into the deep dive on Recycled Percussion, I was going to ask you guys, if you had to do a stunt hike, did you have any ideas? I wrote down a couple of ideas, but I didn't know if you guys had any for yourself.
You can go on that one, Nick.
So I didn't write this down. I talked to you guys about this before. I don't know if it's a stunt hike, but I've always been kind of fascinated with the idea. Like as far as a long distance hike, I'd love to connect sort of Waterville Valley to like Chikura and do that whole thing in a day. Yeah. I don't even know what the mileage now. That's more of like a single. I don't even know. It's got to be like equivalent to a Prezi Traverse or maybe a Pemi Loop with a little bit more mileage.
Traverse, right?
But as far as like these big ones, I had to sort of recheck the stats. The Lodge to Dodge, there's no, the fact that Larson did that in like 22 hours, like the fastest known time's 22 hours on that. Let me double check that really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 22 hours. Andrew Wojak did that, and then Larson did it in a little over a day and 7 hours. I think I would shoot to do it in maybe a 3-day time span with like 2 days being in a potential, like I think the first day, like I'd try to make it to like Zealand Hut, and kind of like if you knew you can make it to there, if like I was way short of that, then it's like you're dead. There's no way 3 days is going to happen.
True.
For that.
True, yeah.
But I definitely wouldn't try to do the 24 hours pushing all through it. Like I'd do it and like sleep and then get up and try to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a 2 or 3 day through hike for me for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that one seems cool. You're tackling, I would say, I mean, arguably the most rugged areas of the Whites in through the 4,000 footers, but you're also tackling like the most beautiful portions pretty much of the Whites in above tree line sections. So that one looks appealing.
Interesting. I think I'm all stunted out. I'm all stunted out, guys. I really am. It's like
the pool noodle was your
that was it.
Your masterpiece.
Yes. It was the cherry on the top.
All right.
What about you, Mike?
Well, I had wrote down a couple of ideas. So I had this idea that doing the terrifying 25 and 5. So 5 days to do the terrifying 25. And I haven't really thought about it too much, but like the initial thought I had was that you can string together a whole bunch of them, and you can essentially start at Caps Ridge and then go down the Castle Trail and then cut across to King Ravine. And then you can go back down Chemin des Dames and then up Chemin des Dames, and then up the Great Gully and then down Madison Gulf and then start connecting Great Gulf and Madison Gulf up to Six Husbands and then down Spinks and then back up the Great Gulf. So you could do that in like a mega hike over the course of like 1 or 2 days and bang out a bunch of them. But after that, I don't know what else you'd have to drive around a bit.
I did have an idea like that I was talking to Mr. Stomp about, and you know Quincy Bog? I thought it would be, Quincy Bog is in Plymouth, and it's a tiny little circular, it's like a 1 mile loop, and it's flat as a board. Yeah. But I was actually thinking, how cool would it be to have a fundraiser for the bog and just have teams and do either a relay or like a 24-hour loop around the bog. Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. That would be
kind of, I was going to say on that topic, so this crossed my mind we're coming fresh off that whole Taze Summit Challenge for Taylor James Steves Foundation, based on when we're recording this, but I was looping pretty much Diamond Hill, which is 480 feet in Cumberland over and over again. And I actually did. I think I ended up getting almost 15 or 16,000 feet on it over the past week or so. But I was kind of saying, I'm like, I wonder if you could, like, if I reached out to Maryland, like, you guys want to come to Rhode Island and just do a 24-hour race on this like 230 foot ascent up this hill, up and down it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I give those people credit because I did one 5,000 foot day with 22 laps, and I was like, it's just after a while, it's scary because you're zoning out, like going up and down ledge and stuff because you're just going. But it's kind of cool, like where you could do these things. I think it's kind of what you make of it. Like even like you were saying, Stomp, like you could do a 1 mile loop, like, and just keep doing it. Like how it gets harder and harder the longer you're running it. So
it gets hypnotizing. You'd just be a zombie.
Like you could climb Chikura as many times as you could. I don't know, but
I had 2 more here, and then we'll get into talking about Ryan and all that stuff. So, Philip Cascio is actually doing this. I thought this was interesting. Through hiking the 52 with a view. I don't know if anyone's ever actually done that. I think he had to come off trail, but that's a good idea. And then the last one I had was 100 peaks in 2 weeks. You do the 4,000 footers and the 52 with the views in 2 weeks.
I love that. Has anybody that's never been done as far as we know?
100
or
peaks,
like back to back
2 weeks.
I mean,
it's got a nice rhyme to it.
Yes,
it does.
Yeah,
I bet looking at the Daratissima, like especially supported times, I bet someone could knock both of them out in a week if they really wanted to. And train for it.
Yeah,
you got some overlap there too, like Star King and
you'd have to
Bald
figure
Peak
out the logistics here.
Yeah.
All right,
that's a cool idea.
So on to this guy. So Ryan is the subject of our our show tonight. So we're going to talk about him. He's a member of this percussion group called Recycled Percussion. Stomp, can you do your best to try to make the listeners understand what this group and what these guys are all about?
Yeah, I guess they're cousins. They're New Hampshire natives. I have seen them once. I saw them at the Flying Monkey in Plymouth, and the best comparison I can make is they're like sort of a spin-off of Blue Man Group, for instance. So it's real percussion based. The whole show is percussion based, but their shtick is that they use recycled stuff, whether it be trash can lids, whatever. So it's a really engaging show, high energy, and apparently they came out of one of those TV shows. What is it? America's Got Talent?
Correct.
Yeah. And they've been, from their fame out of that, they turned a lot of their effort and focus into their store in Laconia, Chaos and Kindness, and they do a lot of charitable events, and they have a particular focus on mental health. So, decent guys, and they put on a hell of a show.
Yeah, and they have a YouTube TV show as well. So I sort of feel like, is it a fair summary, Stomp, to say they started off with like the percussion group, the Blue Man Group type thing, and then they've kind of pivoted into a little bit of a Mr. Beast type of thing going on?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Right. Yeah. So they do different things for a lot of times. I've seen a couple of episodes
Multimedia.
where they've done fundraisers for, it's always with a mental health theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these two guys challenge themselves to different tasks or quote unquote missions.
Okay.
And they seemingly are getting harder and more challenging as time goes on, as we will find out.
Right. Yeah. And so Ryan is the primary who did the actual hiking. Justin was the guy that gave him the challenge. They're cousins. My observation is Justin seems to be the leader, Stomp.
I think you're right. Yeah. Or the front man. The front man.
And Ryan's behind the scenes, but Ryan was the front man for this particular event.
Yeah. I think Ryan is the drummer for the band.
Okay.
And both of them, they're into CrossFit. They're definitely solid athletes for sure. But Stomp, you had done a little bit of a dive on this guy. Originally, when I saw him the first time, it didn't connect. Like just looking at him, it didn't scream like world-class endurance athlete. But I think after this, it's fair to say like he's top 1% endurance athlete, I would say, that you're going to find.
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, we can talk about the injuries and the struggles he had from a PT perspective in a bit, but he's definitely fit. He's done a bunch of different things like this bicycling across New Hampshire. He did that in August 2025, I believe, 200 miles straight across. So he's definitely fit. He has a foundation. Let's just say that. He's not a couch potato.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say in the least, he seems like, I mean, like to your point, Mike, I would guess he'd be in the top, 25% probably of hikers out in the, of just the common fitness level of, I'd say like general hikers out in the whites, kind of the weekend warriors that kind of come up that like ourselves, I would say.
Yeah.
But he definitely wasn't out of shape. Mm-hmm. He wasn't like coming off the couch and hiking Washington kind of shape for sure.
Yeah, and he, I guess, like you said, Stomp, he's done, did I read somewhere that he had done this like 7 marathons on 7 continents challenge before? Is that right?
I think that was Justin.
That was Justin that did that. Right?
Yeah, right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
So these guys, like, they basically one up each other, I think, on this endurance activity.
100%. No question about it.
Yeah.
And they've done other things too. They've done things like, I believe it was Justin that wrote a book in an airport. So he had X amount of days to write an entire book, and he did it in the tarmacs waiting for planes. And he wouldn't leave the airports until he finished the book, which is not a physical stunt, but definitely a mental challenge. And yeah, he got this book done. And that was recently. That was a couple months back.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just strictly limited to physical challenges. They do all kinds of varied tasks.
Yeah, and they're marketers for sure. They seem to have the biggest following on Facebook, as far as I can tell. Like their YouTube channel isn't huge per se.
Yeah.
But YouTube, Facebook, they definitely have a big following, and I think that probably is where some of the tension comes in with some of the hiking community is that the self-promotion and the marketing piece of it and the product positioning along with doing a hike is not always received very well. And they put themselves out there, and like I think that they're big boys, but there's a lot on social media, a lot of negative comments, a lot of positive comments. And I think they're big boys. If you put yourself out there, then it comes with the territory.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch. Kind of to kick it back to what you were saying, Mike. Like I think a lot of people were just like insulted, I think, in the fact that they were like, how dare this guy say that he's going to do these in 7 days and kind of accomplish this thing. And like, who is he to go do this? And I think some of it probably comes from concern, but some of it I kind of agree with, that it's kind of good when people come up and challenge these things. It kind of reminds you like people can just come and like there's athletes out there that can come and kind of kick ass in these mountains out there, frankly. Like there's people that come out from Colorado and run the cod races, and it just because I know we're very prideful, it feels like, about our mountains here in New England. They are very rugged terrain, but it's not like nobody can come and hike these mountains if you're in decent physical shape. Like it's very possible. Yeah. So
yeah, it made me wonder how much research they did ahead of time in terms of the actual challenge physically it would be. And some of the legal dynamics, like if he did get in trouble, what would happen? I wonder about those aspects of the adventure.
Yeah, I don't think too much, Stomp.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed like not much. I mean...
But I think that's the root of some of the negative feedback.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're always trying to promote safety, and it just like not knowing where you're going or things like that, or even kind of just seeing how the choices were for routes or maybe things like that. Surprise over how rugged the terrain was and things like that. Kind of made it obvious, like, hey, maybe they definitely didn't pick up like a 08 mountain guide or 4,000 footer guide and check that ahead of time. It seemed like,
yeah. And we'll break down their itinerary, but like by day 5 and 6, I was like, oh, thank God they're hiking with people that know what the hell they're doing.
Oh yeah. It was good to see that.
So why don't we break down, I don't know, Nick, if you can summarize this, but so this guy pops onto our Facebook and social media scenes, and he's like, I'm Ryan, and I decided I'm going to accept my friend Justin's challenge to hike the 4,000 footers, and I'm going to complete it in 7 days, and I've never hiked a day in my life. And I was just decided this 2 days ago, and he's wearing a cotton hoodie, and he had a good ultimate direction bag. So I was like, okay, well, -1 for the cotton hoodie, +1 for the ultimate direction bag. And then, but otherwise I was like, this sounds crazy. And I was convinced that he wasn't going to last maybe a day or two. But why don't you summarize the mission in more detail than I just gave?
Yeah, so I mean, we outlined this already, but it definitely, and I think it's more clear, at least it seemed to me, looking back as we were kind of gathering notes for this, that there was a very concentrated marketing campaign. Like these guys are not new, as kind of both you were mentioning, to sort of using stunts to market themselves. It seems like it was pretty focused. So even from the beginning, that was that kind of ploy of like, hey, like I'm doing this, but obviously this dude's in good shape. He ended up doing it, so he was capable of doing this. And his goal is to basically hike the New Hampshire 48 4,000 footers in 7 days. This is different too. I want to call out than a Deratissima. That's actually the connected route between the 48 peaks. He basically was doing a hike the 48 as fast as you can, fully supported. He was in a car ride. Seemed like he slept in his car a lot too. I'm not sure if that was entirely necessary or if they could have stayed places or if that was part of the deal. I think he might have stayed in a hostel through one night, it looked like. But they were going to try to get it done. And it kind of, as Mike mentioned, I think it was probably after the Prezi Traverse day, I think day 3 or day 4. And I think Justin and him were kind of on like, the 7 days is kind of out the window like that. I think they got to, I remember one day it was mentioned they were trying to do Tom Field Willie and the Prezi Traverse in a day, which most people look at as like, that's not going to happen. I mean, there's some very fit people, even in the hiking community, that wouldn't be able to accomplish that in a day. So I think it kind of smacked them in the face a little bit more than they intended. Like, I think they anticipated it to be difficult, but maybe not quite as difficult as it set in over those first couple days.
Yeah. Yeah. Stomp, do you think, like, I look back to, so his day 1, he did the Carrigain hike, and then he went over and did the Sandwich Range Traverse, and he essentially ended up like he did Whiteface Pass of Conway. He's like stumbling over the Tri-Pyramids in the middle of the night, like clearly hadn't used a headlamp before or anything like that, and he got out really late. I was like, oh,
start
he's done
with a bang.
This. Do you think he was sandbagging a little bit though? Like maybe he was stronger than he let on to that, or what do you think?
I sort of got that impression during the 3/4 point where he was laying on his back and he was tapping out. And then at the very end, he shut the video off. He's like, he said something mysterious and disappeared. Like, I'm going to do it. And it just disappeared. Maybe. That's a good question.
Yeah. I was in the same boat on that one. I mean, I think it's more it became sort of a recurring theme where it's like, oh, I'm out. And then like 2 hours later, he's out hiking Moose Lock in the dark. And that was kind of like, and I remember one clip of him being like, I'm on like pain medication and I rubbed lotions on my feet and he's using that stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I guess maybe we'll probably never know actually what was on behind the scenes. Just like maybe with his physical injuries or whatever was happening during the way. His foot definitely was swollen at one point. I saw one of his feet, but
his feet weren't calloused. He was blistering up. So that's legit. He had some edema, for sure. And that was my sort of concern as a PT was DOMS. Like if you start day one Carrigain and do a Kate sleeper over to the tries, you're going to be paying for it big time. So it's that delayed onset, some new activity that you just start. You always get that soreness and things start creeping up on you. And I guess for him, it was ankle tendonitis, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Right.
I was actually curious if he could have started out a little lighter for the first day and just like maybe Hale or some other combination, Jackson or something, just to get the feet wet, get the muscles sort of honed in a little bit before he dove in. That could have set him up for trouble just for the whole adventure, starting so hard.
Yeah, if he knew he had 11 days to go, he could have built a little bit, but he did a 7-day strategy. But either way, like starting with Carrigain and then doing that Sandwich Range Traverse with the tries and Whiteface Pascone was
monster.
Kind of an odd choice, but definitely a hard day. But he did that in day one, and I think he ended up down in Pine Bend off the Kank at around 10 o'clock at night or something. And then the next day he was... really seemed like he was in the hurt locker. He did the Hancocks. He did I think he went up south and then down north. And I think the heading down north, I think was where I saw him on video, and he didn't look like he was feeling very good. That was when I basically was like, I think I was working at that point, and I said, well, he'll be done as of today. And that's when I thought he was just going to tap out.
Mm-hmm. Do we know the total mileage for this by any rough estimate?
I can tell you in a minute.
Because that would be a good indicator as to, the challenge and the taxing nature of the adventure on his body for somebody that hasn't been a hiker.
It's about 160 miles.
It's around 70 to 80,000 feet, probably.
Yeah.
Something like that ballpark, depending on which way you go.
Yeah, man. That's,
you have to do like 10,000 feet a day almost to knock it out in 7 days.
Right.
I know just from when we were trying to do our sort of planning is like any way you slice it, you're kind of ending up with like 8,000 to 10,000 foot a day
right.
average. So that's a serious thing to do day after day.
But day two, Hancocks and then East Osceola and then Tecumseh. And, he was at 10 after day two, which that's not terrible, but you still... you got a lot of big days to go. And then the third day, this is when I was traveling. I was in India, so I couldn't really pay as much attention as I was the previous days. But he did Tom, Willie, and Field, and then Mount Hale. Do you know, Nick or Stomp? Did he just go off the backside of?
He kept it pretty close to his chest.
He didn't say the routes.
No, not really.
Yeah, I was going to say, my inclination was with timing is that he didn't connect them. I think they did Tom, Field, Willie, and then they did Hale more towards at night, probably out and back from Hale Brook. Yeah, they didn't. That was the other thing that is worth outlining all of this. And I don't know if it was, some of it may be intentional, I don't know, or they really just didn't know. But like, there was not much discussion about like, hey, Ryan's on this, he's doing it this way. There was almost almost like a frustration. I think for those of us that know the mountains for watching this thing, it actually, obviously it was entertaining, but it was frustrating from a point like, what's he doing? It's like, I don't like unless you want to watch the 30-minute long video, you might not actually know where he is once he was on summits, most of us could kind of pick out where he is without him saying it. But that was part of the whole mystique of ploy of this whole thing, it seemed like. Yeah,
when you went on the live streams too, you could tell by the comments that like most of the people had no clue, no idea about hiking. Like every once in a while you would get somebody on there that would, you could tell they knew the trail or something, but it was a lot of, so I think that's something that people need to keep in mind. Like the gatekeepers on Reddit, calm down. Like this was not for the hiking community, I think's consumption. This was marketed more towards their existing fan base that like has no knowledge or any clue about hiking, I think.
And I think that's evident by who was present at Lincoln Woods when he finished. I mean, it was just a crowd of regular normies hanging out, waiting for him.
Right.
Band fans.
Yep.
Groupies.
Nice. And then on day 4, so he did a Prezi Traverse, and I think I was probably in my Hurt Locker traveling to India at this point, so I didn't really see any of this day, but I don't know if anything stands out, Nick or Stomp, on this one.
Well, I do have comments, but go ahead, Nick.
We might have some of the same comments too. So two things that I stuck out to me over this day. And I wasn't watching. I think I watched more in the later day when he got past Washington. But one was that I know Justin, I think, had started joining him by this point, and he was mentioning them running out of water and people with them getting like heat stroke symptoms, and they had to go down early. I suspect that it was planned from the get go that Justin and some of the crew was going to ride with him to Washington and then go down. I don't know why, because Justin was like on video later that night, and I think he drove with his family back to Boston. Again, there's a lot of details here, so just how I recall everything. So that seems odd to me, that if he was really in some sort of serious medical condition, hiking out and then driving home seems like maybe not the best idea. I don't know how much was planned of it. The other thing that stuck out was a video of him where I think I texted, there was, so many group chats going on with this, but there was one point he missed Jefferson and he had to double back for it. In the video that they posted, again, like you guys were mentioning, not a lot of hikers, I think, watching those things and commenting, but he just ripped right through some nice alpine zone without rock hopping and stuff. Yeah. Which I kind of noticed, which was kind of I'm like, you don't know what you don't know, but it's also like kind of like he needs someone with him that's experienced to be just the stuff like that. And like, I also don't know how the heck you missed the summit of Jefferson and go by it. Like, I don't know if that could be an exhaustion thing, but it is kind of a rock pile sitting up there on that flat top kind of, I guess, but it seems odd that he would have missed it completely. I don't know. That seemed kind of confusing to me. But anything that stuck out to you, Stomp?
I was going to focus back in on the perspective from a SAR volunteer. Day 2 into day 3 is where he started posting live chats talking about how his condition was deteriorating and how he didn't want to put SAR in jeopardy, and he recognized that and verbalized it, and I thought that was fantastic. And just as a refresher for listeners, you can be billed for, even if you have a hike safe card, you can be billed for negligence or recklessness. Now, under recklessness, knowing full well that you have a physical limitation is one of the criteria that you can get set up for a billing. So I was fascinated just watching, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to keep on going? How severe is it? And sure enough, he kept on going. So I was just like, wow, this is wild. What's going to happen here? I was getting really nervous that he was going to need a rescue at one point because he sounded so dire.
Right. And it's tough to know, like, Ryan, when you listen to this, you can send us a message. Let us know if you were sandbagging or if this was legit. But Stomp, you looked at the symptoms. You feel like he was legit in the risk area there. So, but then day 5 is where I think day 5 was a turning point a little bit, Stomp, because he did the Carter, Wildcat, Mariah Traverse, which is a beast of a hike for sure. But I think that this is when, I suspect somewhere between like day 3 and 5, like they started getting in touch with some legit hikers. So I remember this was where he hooked up with Mary Moon, who I don't know her, but I know the name. She's been around a bit. So I think he connected with her. And then from that day forward, to me, it seems like he was connected with legit hikers after that were at least involved in helping him plan and moving him along a bit.
Pacing, giving him some guidance. You had, Captain Chris Wright, who's a phenomenal hiker. He's a SAR volunteer. You had Andy Drummond jump on board. Yeah. So he definitely had the support and the encouragement and the guidance.
And there too. And,
yeah. Yep. Chase is another Aravapa guy.
Right. So at that point, I sort of started feeling like they somebody got to them clearly and said, like, look, guys, you're the hiking community is paying attention, and let us help you out, because clearly you need a little bit of guidance here on like planning, and safety's a factor. And it's sort of like, I remember the day seeing that he was with Captain Chris, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more encouraging at this point, because they've got some real legit people on there.
100%. Yeah,
it's worth mentioning too, in that safety aspect of this point. And I mean, it kind of lasted throughout his whole duration, but he had a very good weather window to do all this. Like you couldn't like crap shoot with 360. I mean, other than the winter where it's just going to be rougher. Like it was a beautiful. I'd say if anything, maybe it was a little warmer than you'd probably prefer if you were doing a Prezi Traverse or something like that. They got hit with some rain, I think, on like the Wednesday. But that was like the only adverse weather, other than cold temperatures, that's just run of the mill this time of year. Like it's approaching shoulder season, but I mean, just got this really spectacular stretch of weather, like dry 70s, probably 50s, 60s up high. Like
100-year droughts really favor hikers.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a perfect point, because like anybody could plan this, but you could easily have a 3-day weather window that just blows this whole thing up.
Yeah. Right. And that sort of was the problem midweek, Wednesday into Thursday, I believe. He was looking at weather, but it ended up falling pretty much into the evening, overnight, and then stopping in the morning. So it worked out perfect for him. And that was another thing I was getting nervous about. Like, wow, a lot of these trails are going to be a little bit slick, and he's gimping along on his tendonitis. Like, man, this is going to be a disaster.
Yeah. And I'd say, so for the next 4 days, Stomp, I think that he was sort of like you talked about, like he was gimping along. So for the next 4 days, he essentially did what I would call like cleanup hikes, like 2 a day. And the day 9, he did Cannon and the Kinsmans. But day 6 was isolation in Jackson. So he hadn't done Jackson as part of the Presidential Traverse. And then obviously isolation is a long ass day, no matter which way you cut it. He did Cabot and Womback on day 7. And then Owl's Head and Moosalok on day 8. So that's another long day. And then day 9 was Cannon and the Kinsmen. So those days were, I think, where they had already settled on the idea that, okay, we're not going to make it. Then I heard him talking about the need for him to get to a gig in Kentucky, which I think only gave him like 2 more days. So they were sitting at 36, and he had 2 more days to finish up. And they came up with a plan to hit it.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. To finish it with a Pemi Loop is absolutely fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. So they did the Pemi Loop on day 10, and they added on South Twin, North Twin. So they did a semi-Pemi, I'd say.
Yeah,
so
like a half Pemi, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that night he made it to Galehead and was going to call it quits, but ended up going up and banging out the Twins, which I think was the decision that saved him time-wise. Because if he had and then he could start the next day at Zealand and just get the rest of it done, which is what he did.
Yep.
If he had a backtrack to the Twins, that would have been a nightmare. So that was a really smart move.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth mentioning too. I think one of the last posts I saw him do about kind of getting up something quickly, I think Jackson, I think he was up an hour and a half or something. Mariah, I thought was funny. I think he was like, oh, I did 4,500 feet in 2.5 hours, which I think Mariah is actually about 3,000 feet. So a little misnomer on that one on the stats. But he was slowing down by the semi-Pemi loop. Like, I think I was looking at the post, it was like 9, 10, maybe 10-ish hours to get to Garfield. So I mean, they were pushing through the Twins pretty late at night. And I mean, I got to imagine, he was chugging along, but he was slower than you'd want to be unless you were willing. I mean, he certainly got experience night hiking. I was going to say it was an inexperienced, but he probably did more night hiking than a lot of people have done over the past couple of years.
Who was he with on every night? On that semi-Pemi, do you know?
I
think Mary and a handful of others, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were still plugging away with as much as he could, but it seemed like the communication dwindled a bit because you're doing all that mileage and elevation a day. So just realistically, like, what you're going to say? You got to keep moving and do the thing. Like,
that's another thing too, is like every day he would do like probably 2 or 3 30-minute live videos where he's hiking. Like, I'm surprised he didn't stop. That's a huge risk just on itself. Like if I'm fiddling with my phone, like my chance of tripping or fumbling is way higher.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, agreed. I had such empathy for him when he said that the hardest part of that Pemi Loop was going up North Twin or Twin. You know, the section from Galehead Hut up to
South
Twin.
Twin. Yeah.
South Twin. Yeah, sorry.
Brutal.
Oh yeah, I mean that is such an ass kicker.
It's like a 1,100 feet, 0.8 climb.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's rough.
It's brutal. I will say the view when you get up there though makes it worth it. But yeah, then he finished up with the Z-Bonds Traverse, which is pretty straightforward. So he did it. He did it in 11 days. You know, I think that's
amazing.
If I were to poll, like based on the text group messages that we have going, I got a couple of them with hikers, and I think most of us thought he was done after the Hancocks, and then for him to just keep rolling was super impressive. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
Mind over matter. It's all a head game. You know, it's like if you can shut the pain off and just keep on rolling with sheer determination. I mean, that's really notable. And a lot of people can't do that.
Right.
They would have tapped out on day 2.
Right. So Stomp, you got some notes and some thoughts here. So what do you want to talk about the support and the progress? What and some of the medical stuff? What are your spew what's in your brain to the listeners?
Well, I think we had touched upon it, but the support was probably a huge factor in him moving forward and keeping going based upon some of his
100%.
Some of his late night posts where he was just in the drolls, just miserable, fretting about having to do it and how he's going to do it. So that was a huge turning point for him. The medical, I guess he had like staff doctors. I don't know what kind of medical treatment he had, but I guess he had a good crew of people to really check him out physically. And I would hope checking perhaps some blood work just to make sure he wasn't just way off of his electrolytes and whatever else. So that was super important too. I don't know if he wore any like orthotics, any braces or anything like that for his ankles. I'm sure that would have helped. That's sort of an unknown. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. What
do you got, Nick?
So, I mean, this whole thing was just a roller coaster, and it was entertaining no matter which side of the fence you fall on. It's been interesting watching sort of I don't want to call it like the fallout with people in the hiking community. I mean, he definitely seems to be a pretty divisive character. In very much, I mean, I think there's people that are almost like, oh, like this was a wrong purpose for doing something like this with a stunt hike in the Whites. Again, I don't think that's something that you can stop people from doing. Like anybody can go hike the trails. Like the gatekeeping on that to me is kind of it's a lost thing. If you believe that and you believe what you believe, then it is. But I think there was also a general like agreement that he did this pretty recklessly amongst almost everybody. I'm curious too. It's interesting to see who kind of has fallen on the side of the fence. Like you saw people like Chase Hall, Mary Moon, like obviously people that are very experienced hikers in the Whites sort of reaching out and helping them. I am curious if some of it was genuine concern over like someone needs to be with him over like, oh, let me help him accomplish this goal. Like, or is it like, we don't want to see this dude get hurt over like, let's help him kind of finish this thing. There's definitely some interesting psychology there. And again, I don't think we're going to get all the ansers. This is sort of speculation,
I don't think so.
But yeah. And I mean, speaking for me personally, and sorry,
probably a combination.
Yeah, probably a combination. And I mean, for me personally, this whole thing is like, I think I was definitely in the group at fully admit, like when we were in it, like we had text change and I'm like, there's no way this is going to happen. Like, what's this guy doing? And then he kind of won me over, I'd say midway through. And then after a while, towards the end, it was like, this guy is just being reckless. I think, again, like you were saying, Stomp, the mind's a powerful thing. And I think a big part of this, he was continuing to plug the mental health message. But to me, it seemed like it took a bit of a back seat as it went on to him being like, there's people that said I couldn't do this. And it's like a lot of people were just kind of mainly saying like, in 7 days to try to do this is a lot. I don't think anybody was saying you can't hike the 48. Even in some sort of continuous effort. And once you expand the time span to, it's still very impressive, 11 days. Don't get me wrong, but it's a different ballpark to do that. And I think he very much was like, oh, I got all this negativity. And it's like, sure, but you've gotten a lot of positivity. So again, I think this sort of plays in this background narrative with marketing. And like, there was a lot going on with this, which is part of why we're on here talking about it. But that was kind of my take in watching this thing sort of unfold.
Yeah, I wonder what his his full panoply of motivations were. You know, obviously, he's got a business. It seems like they had a plan ahead of time. So if he bailed on the plan, then that whole scheme would have just collapsed. So he had a motivator there. The one thing that's sort of threw me for a loop was early when he was looking out for the SAR community, saying, "No, I don't want to trigger a rescue," but then it completely went 180 the other direction. Like, I'm going to do this no matter what. My feet are, I'm down to my tibia.
My feet are hamburgers, but I don't care.
Yeah. That threw me for a little loop. But again, we weren't there. We don't know. So
yeah. And I mean, I don't want to say too, like, don't, like, obviously, I mean, I think all of us have done, you guys more so than I am in my hiking career and just running and things. Like, both of you have really pushed yourselves physically. And like, obviously you have to push yourself to grow as like an endurance athlete or whatever you want to call it, hiker, runner, to be able to know these things to some scary territories. But there is a point where you're sort of like pushing past any reasonable or logical sort of decision to try to get something done, where it's like, it's probably just a bad idea at this point. It's not necessarily like my body is potentially going to be damaged by this. Like, there is a point where you're like, like, I don't know. That's a tough thing. Like, how, you know, when you're redlining it, and I don't mean redlining like the trails, like redlining in the sense of like your engine is going to blow up kind of deal. Like, it's tough to know that limit until you push it. But I think there is a certain point where enough people around you are like, hey, like, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe we should step back for a second.
Well, I think that ultimately the goal is, you know, it's sort of like, Nick, when we did the winter, the bonds in the winter, and I was like, nope, I got to turn around because today's not my day because I'm cramping up. It's like, you only get that willingness to do that when you've been there and done that and experienced it. And I think that, like, that's the risk with somebody that's never hiked before, that's doing a crazy stunt like this, is that they don't have any frame of reference whatsoever, that they've been there, done that, to know that they've already walked past the deep end. Now, Ryan got lucky, but it could have easily gone the other way. And if this had gone the other way and needed a search and rescue, this would have been terrible. You know, 100%. The pitchforks and the stakes would have been out severely. I mean, red is scary enough, but it would be brutal if he needed a rescue.
Not only that, but there was a very plausible, realistic risk that he could have altered his dexterity and ability to play drums for the band. There's a 100% chance that he could have permanently injured his feet to a degree that it would have altered his ability to play to some level, to some degree.
Do they use the kickstands on theirs? I didn't know if they just do the
it's a kick drum. It's everything. You need your ankle mobility completely.
100%. So if you're talking about a slip and fall and an ankle fracture with an open reduction fixation, there goes your dexterity for fluid kick drum playing. Yeah, it's like, there's a lot going on there. So yeah, he's putting a lot up on the table at the poker game.
Well, like you said, Stomp, I mean, they're marketers first and foremost. So that's what their focus for their business is, to get out there in front of an audience and entertain them. And I think that, you know, if you measure their goal by that, then they killed it. They did an awesome job. Yeah. They're selling 100%. Like branded 4,000 footer hoodies that are under the Chaos and Kindness brand, which is the Chaos and Kindness brand is their like spin-off apparel brand, where they have a company, I think it's in Laconia, I want to say.
Yeah.
So they've got, you know, a lot of stuff on Facebook, marketing ads and whatnot. So they're selling these for $80. There is like the Reddit crowd is not happy because, you know, that we talked about the stepping over alpine vegetation, which is not good. And then the other thing he did, which is not cool, but again, he doesn't know any better, is taking sand from each of the 4,000 footers, and then he's going to include that as part of a necklace with each of the hoodies, which is probably a violation of leave no trust principles, and you're not supposed to take anything out of the forest like that. But a lot of people are going to look at that and go, it's sand.
Hey,
we can survive.
He's all set. The government's shut down. Nobody's coming for him.
That's right. No one's going to find him. So, anyway.
fair point. Fair point.
But, yeah.
Oh, by the way, so they had 603 of those hoodies made, and I heard from a reliable source that there's only like 60 left.
Oh, nice.
As of today, which is what, Tuesday?
Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. So, do you guys want to get into what I loved and what I hated and a little bit of a conclusion that you guys can jump onto?
Yeah, sure.
That sounds fantastic.
Okay. So here's what I loved about this. I love that they created a buzz and they got everybody interested. They drew a bunch of eyes. They pulled in people that like didn't have a lot of knowledge of hiking, and I love that. I think that that's a good exposure. I think you can argue to say like, oh, now a bunch of rookies are going to think they can do this. I don't think that's going to happen. If anything, it might inspire somebody to get out there and hike.
Yep.
True.
Yeah, I agree.
I loved, and Nick, you talked about this a little bit, and then I think Stomp, we had also had this on our text group. Like I think every text group I was in that was talking about this was, and we had another thing going with Jen Kunze as well. At a certain point, everybody said, this guy's won me over. So whether it was on like day 3 or day 4, everybody did that. So at a certain point, watching his evolution from being like clueless to then being humbled on the Hancocks, and then eventually being able to kind of listen, and then he finds experienced hikers, and then eventually he starts to get it. Essentially, he was sort of speed running the process that we all go through in the beginning of learning to hike, where we're like completely clueless. We get our asses kicked on some mountain, and then we start researching, we start learning, we start making connections within the hiking community. Like, he's doing all those steps. He's just doing them really fast, and he's not going to pick everything up. But it was the sort of speed running of becoming a hiker that I liked. I think it was over 11 days he became sort of a hiker. Not fully. You're not there yet, Ryan, if you're listening, but you'll get there.
Yeah, I think there was like this middle ground where I was like, oh, like he is becoming a hiker. Then it was like, oh, what is he doing? Like it kind of went to almost like that, because I think, and again, I feel like in the whites it goes into and reflects back to the community of like, there is really good messaging around hike safe and sort of the cards and sort of SAR's involvement and volunteer SAR with Fish and Game, and like I think it made me realize like, oh, we have a culture here of people. Granted, the whites are way smaller than like the Rockies or Colorado or whatever, but like the people really do care about people being safe in these mountains out here. Like they do. Like, and I think it's something that runs through and through to anybody that's been hiking in the whites for a good amount of time. Like it just exists, and it's a beautiful thing. But it was kind of, it was cool watching him sort of like become this, and like even like doing cabin, he's like, oh, I get how people can get hypothermia in the rain in like 30-40 degree temperatures. Yeah. It's like, this happens. You lose feeling in your extremities, and sometimes it's too late before you realize how bad it's getting. But it was wild.
Hey, wait a minute, the sun goes down? You need a headlamp?
What? All right, more of the stuff I love. We may get attacked on this one, Stomp, but I kind of loved how he like pissed off the Reddit gatekeeping crowd. Like,
I'm not on Reddit, so you'll have to fill me in on this.
Like the White Mountain National Forest subreddit. Like, I don't go on it too much, but I did go on it. I do go on it for like big news. They're just like, they're so gatekeepery about like, oh, you shouldn't be allowed to do this or that or whatever. And they've also had a mean thread about us, our podcast one time, Stomp. So they're my mortal enemy from now on. but do yourself a favor, don't ever go on there. But I kind of love that he was irking the gatekeeping crowd, and they were like absolutely apoplectic about the fact that this guy, the audacity of this guy to hike on our mountains. It was kind of great. I was laughing. And there would, every once in a while, there'd be someone that would go in and they would get badly downvoted, but they would say like, oh, well, he seems to be able to do all this complicated stuff that you guys seem to think is so complicated. So
it's hilarious.
But it just showed that like somebody in reasonably good shape can complete the 4,000 footers with little or no experience. Not recommended, but like the guy did it. So congratulations. Yeah. I love seeing that some of the experienced hikers stepped in. Captain Chris, Chase Hall, Mary Moon. That was all fun to see. I enjoyed the dumb entertainment of it all. I also want to call out that like, this is a local company. Say what you want about them. And I know I'm going to talk about the marketing stuff in a minute, but it's a local company. And even though you may not love all the aspects of what they did, I do think if you have a chance to support a local company, I'd rather do that than like buy shit over Amazon. So buy a hoodie. There's 60 left.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, it was really neat for me because I was getting texts constantly from Mrs. Stomp. I get a text saying, he made it to Hale. Or like in a couple hours later, he made it to the Twins. So like I had this constant dialogue with her. She was like, we were both into it for sure. But
it really was like great work entertainment. Like I would have my phone just like going like this, and I'd be on a conference call, and then it was fun.
Yeah. So I had this. I'll just briefly say I had this like love-hate thing with the whole thing because I wanted him to succeed, because I really think when he was giving those live talks at the end of the night, you can't talk about something like mental illness like he does unless you really have a deep understanding of it, in my opinion. I think when he was talking about that stuff, it was coming from the heart and it was coming from experience. And I want their company to succeed because I do think that they're doing good. But the other side of it for me was like the devil on the shoulder. I was literally in my car saying, if there's a rescue, this is what I'm going to say to him. Like that type of stuff. Right. Like, oh my God, I'm going to come up and say, hey, Ryan. Like, it's just like, do not put me in the place where we got to come and get you.
Right. And then I say Ryan and Justin, like I will say Ryan's an interesting guy. Like the first impression I had was like, he's a little douchey. I don't know if he's like sincere enough, but over time, as he talks, like he exudes sincerity, and I think that he truly does care about mental health. So he won me over. They're undeniably likable, and he was sort of childlike in how naive he seemed about this challenge. So I like that. It was a little cool. So the things I hated. Though I hated the lack of logical planning, like the way that they ordered this hike was bananas. I hated how he pushed himself beyond reasonable risk. Not a good example. Didn't like the Alpine Zone stuff. Don't like the sand collection. And then the marketing thing, I'm mixed on. Like I understand how they have to make their living. Some people find it annoying, but ultimately no one's forcing you to buy anything or consume their content. So you have the choice to just shut it off if you're not interested. So I go back to the fact that like whether you like them or not, local company, let's support them if you can. If you don't want to, then don't bash them.
Yeah, could have been worse. He could have been leaving painted rocks up on every summit.
Oh yeah,
this is true.
I don't like that.
It'd be a lot worse.
We don't like that. So I say, in conclusion, this is for Ryan and Ryan's ears only if you're listening. So I say, let's see what happens with this guy. If it was a one-time stunt and they sell a bunch of sweatshirts and move on, then probably my perspective will be a little less generous. But I'm just hoping that Ryan had some moments on those mountains where he looked out in the view, he put the phone down, and just realized that he lives in a state where he's never had a chance to experience these mountains and experience these views and the vistas that he was able to see in probably one of the most beautiful times of the year, fall foliage in New Hampshire. And I hope that maybe he found something that he can truly revisit frequently. And I also would say one piece of advice I'd give Ryan is that if he really does care about mental health and wellness, which I think he does, one of the lessons I hope he learns from this hiking is that mountains aren't a one-time thing to speed race through, but they're a piece of therapy that can and should be revisited all over again. So I think of these things as a reset button, Nick, and not a pass, go, and collect $200 and move along. So for me, getting out in the mountains is a reset button for my mental health. And then when I come back in, it's another reset button. So it's not something that's a one-time deal and done.
Yeah, I thought that was really well said, Mike. And one thing, I mean, he very much was sort of showing like, oh, like I conquered this thing. And it's like, all of us know, I mean, the mountains, especially the whites in the northern Prezzies, areas like that, they can absolutely kill you if they want to. And you're stupid enough to be up there in any sort of scenario. I mean, the weather window is one thing, but it's just something I think nobody ever conquers any mountain, whether it's Mount Washington or Mount Everest or whatever. I mean, you're at the mercy of the weather and whatever else you want to believe in certain situations up there. So I think kind of mentioned like he did the challenge, and kudos to him for that. It's a super impressive physical feat, but you got to keep in mind, like, I don't like it particularly when people talk about like I conquered sort of this place. Like Mount Washington can be beautiful up there. It can be some of the worst weather on the planet depending on the day you're up there. And I mean, it's something to keep in mind that I always feel like even when you're in the Alpine Zone or wherever, like nature is allowing you to be up there and affording you a great time up there with friends or whatever. And it's not a permanent thing usually. And you got to just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing I was thinking about. When you're a musician, I've heard it from like, U2, like The Edge. He would come off of a world tour and then all of a sudden just be empty and not know what to do with himself. And my prediction is that he's going to get that feeling like, oh my God, I miss it. I miss it up there. I got to get more of that.
Yeah.
Same type of phenomena. It's just, I mean, he dug down so deep and experienced some amazing stuff. And I don't think he's going to be able to let it go.
Yeah. And I give Ryan and Justin a lot of credit for bringing people together, people that had never experienced the mountains before or our hiking world. And I think that, he gave a good representation of the risks and the challenges. And I don't think anybody watching him would ever conclude that like what he did was easy or something that's, easily attainable. No. So, I'd say that, what they did was not easy. And ultimately, I'm hoping that Ryan sort of took away and realized like these are very hard mountains to climb, but that he'll want to come back and do them again. So that's my hope, is that the takeaway from this is like, I want to get back out there because it was magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for him to get back up there maybe by himself where he can enjoy Franconia Ridge and not be like, I'm trying to finish this I'm sure he enjoyed it, but to be up there and be like, I'm just going to go up because it's a nice day and there's some undercast or something like that, or go up and see it in the winter or something like that, and experience it. And I did want to, I loved your point about the gatekeeping, Mike, because that's one thing I had no problem with and will never, is that people that like are like, these are kind of our mountains, that mentality to me is so stupid. It's like I want everybody to enjoy the Whites and enjoy these things that we love as much as anybody else. Like they're nobody's mountains. And I think it's a great thing if more people get exposed to sort of hiking all these mountains through his fan page and stuff, then that's fantastic. To me, it's a good thing. It's not bad. It only helps kind of educate people and show them that we have these beautiful places in New England. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
the only exception is Artist Bluff on Columbus Day weekend.
That's true.
Stay away. It's closed.
Sorry. Too fresh.
PTSD.
Yeah, so that's recycled percussion here. So we'll get this out ASAP. And anything else? Stomp, welcome back. It was great to have you back.
Yeah, it was fun. You guys are killing it. You guys sound good. You got a good flow. Yeah, it's good. It was fun.
Awesome. So, all right. Until next time.
Later,
bye, everybody.
Woohoo!
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at slasherpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one help!
Here's Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.